In 1932, in a country considered modern, stable, and having just emerged from the First World War, a strange decision was made. Not to declare war on a neighboring nation. Not to suppress an uprising. But to mobilize the military to confront birds. The question arises, what would happen if a modern state, possessing military machine guns and well-trained soldiers, declared war on an enemy with no weapons, no strategy, no government, only the instinct to survive? That year, Australia did exactly that. And the result was a failure that made the entire nation fall silent and then burst into laughter. To understand how such a strange war could occur, we must return to the context of Australia after World War I. Like many other nations in the Commonwealth, Australia faced a serious problem: tens of thousands of veterans returning from the European battlefields, carrying injuries, memories of war, and no jobs. The Australian government believed it had found a solution. The soldiers who had once fought for the Empire would be sent to remote regions, particularly Western Australia, where large areas of land remained unused, to establish farms, grow wheat, and build new lives. Solving unemployment, expanding agricultural production, and maintaining social stability. On paper, it was a perfect plan. But the plan failed to account for one crucial factor: nature. Each year, when the rainy season ended, tens of thousands of emus, large flightless birds nearly as tall as an adult human, began migrating across the plains. They had no awareness of administrative borders, no concern for land ownership, and no understanding of the concept of veterans' farms. Around 20,000 emus flooded into newly planted wheat fields. They trampled young crops, destroyed fences, consumed seeds, and left behind devastated farmland. For the veterans who had just staked their futures on this land, this was not merely economic loss, but the collapse of hope itself. They appealed to the government. And the government, instead of seeking ecological or agricultural solutions, chose a familiar path: military force. The Australian Department of Defence approved the request for assistance. A small unit was deployed, equipped with Lewis machine guns, weapons once used in the blood-soaked trenches of World War I. The objective was clearly defined: eliminate the emus, protect the crops. In November 1932, the war began. But from the very first days, the Australian military realized they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Emus ran very fast. More than 50 kilometers per hour. At the sound of gunfire, they did not panic and cluster together. Instead, they scattered into small groups, constantly changing direction, disappearing behind hills and bushes. There were no formations to destroy. No fixed targets to aim at. Bullets were fired. A great many bullets. But the results were disproportionate. An officer involved in the campaign later admitted, with a tone both bitter and helpless, that these birds behaved like guerrilla units. They appeared suddenly, inflicted damage, and vanished before the military could react. On one occasion, soldiers spotted a large group of emus moving across a field. The machine gun was set up. The timing was perfect. As the birds entered firing range, the soldier pulled the trigger. The gun jammed. In those brief seconds, the emus scattered like water spilled onto sand. When the gun functioned again, there were no significant targets left. Hundreds of rounds were fired just to bring down a few birds. After many days of engagement, thousands of bullets had been expended. Yet the number of emus killed amounted to only a few hundred, a figure far too small to have any real impact on the vast migrating population. Meanwhile, the Australian press began to take notice. Mocking articles appeared. Cartoons depicted soldiers being chased by birds. The public began asking questions. And in Parliament, a question was raised, both sarcastic and serious. Is the Australian military losing a war to birds? That question had no comfortable answer. In the end, the government was forced to order a withdrawal. The campaign ended. There was no signing ceremony. No declaration of victory. Only silence, and a difficult truth to deny. The military had failed. The emus had won. The Emu War claimed no human lives. But it left behind profound lessons far more significant than its scale would suggest. It demonstrated that military power, no matter how modern, is not the solution to every problem. Nature does not operate according to the logic of war. And humans, when applying violent thinking to complex ecological systems, often reveal nothing more than their own arrogance. After the failure, Australia changed its approach. They built fencing systems. They provided subsidies to farmers. They sought long-term solutions rather than continuing to rely on force. Today, the Emu War is often remembered as a humorous episode in history. But behind the laughter lies a serious warning: not every conflict can be resolved with gunfire. And humans are not always the absolute rulers of this world. History, at times, does not require bloody battles to teach us its lessons. It only needs a flock of birds.